The Viper has one of the most complex paint processes on any car in the world. It's hand painted, and there are a lot of hours that go into making this a mirror-like finish. So how do you protect that investment? How do you make sure that this car stays looking new for years to come? We talked to some of the experts to find out more about that.
One of the things that Viper owners have to be aware of is that this is an exotic vehicle. It has different kinds of needs than from a production car or a daily driver, an SUV that takes you around town. And the paint finish on this vehicle is so fine, it can show what we call micro scratches because there's no surface undulation or orange peel, as they call it. These kinds of things are normally hidden by orange peel or that roughness that you see in most high-volume production vehicles. The best way to restore that finish, there's again a couple alternatives. A high-end professional detail shop or painter that knows how to properly use a foam pad wheel with top-of-the-line good polishing compound, something that doesn't have a lot of abrasive, and it can bring that finish back. Or a customer can do it themselves with the same type of machines if they have the competency.
What we do is not rocket science. Anybody can learn to do it. It just takes a lot of time and there's a lot of responsibility to it. Most people think it's a quick, buy a polisher, buy some supplies and, spend a weekend polishing the car. But it actually sometimes, this car in particular is going to be a good 12 to 15 hours of work. It's going to require a lot of expertise to not burn the paint, to tape off particular edges. Well, we washed all the salt off initially with the pressure washer just to get the majority off for a safer wash later on. And then just the typical 2-bucket wash mitts, get all that off, dry the car, and prep it for polishing. And by prepping, I mean we're taping off a few sections, we're going to check the swirl marks, and start doing some test spots to see what's the best.
Well, anything that says polish usually has an abrasive in it. So there's polishes that are more aggressive and polishes that are very, very, limited and less aggressive for taking out very small micro scratches. A wax is usually a compound that is used it literally fills these ultra fine micro scratches that you can't take out with polish and allows those microscopic little lines to be filled, and so when you wipe it off and polish it up, you have that super deep liquid kind of a look.
The process for polishing would basically be, as you can see here, we're going to do a couple test spots, and what I mean by that is we have a variety, probably up to 10, 15 polishes and different types of pads, both of them of different abrasiveness. So what we're going to be doing is finding kind of right combination to not only remove as many defects as possible, but also leave a really nice and glossy finish so there's no defects that we put in, such as some haze from the polisher or something being too aggressive to look good on this paint job. Paint correction is done to improve the looks of the car. After that, we're getting into paint protection, and the typical has been a carnauba wax or a polymer man-made sealant over the past, multiple decades. Over the past few years, basically the next step in paint protection technology has been these paint protective coatings. They are basically a liquid that interacts with oxygen once it's applied to the paint, forms a hard layer on the surface of the paint, thus not only protecting it how paint sealants and waxes did before, but it also prevents or helps prevent swirl marks, scratches, water spots, and many other defects from actually penetrating the clear coat. Now it's not foolproof, it's not a kind of invincible force shield that's on the paint. It should still be maintained and whatnot, but it just provides many better qualities than a wax or sealant, and for much longer period of a time. Waxes and sealants typically last anywhere from 1 to 2 months, maybe up to 6-7 months, whereas these protective coatings take it at the minimum of 1 year, and most of them you're looking at 1.5 to 2 years, some even more. And like I said, much of that depends on the actual maintenance that's put into the car. Swirl marks happen from washing and drying in general. Now that could happen whether it comes from the factory, whether the dealer has stored for a few months and wash it, whether you go to a local car wash and get it done poorly, or even over time if somebody takes really great care of the car. Ultimately, we are dragging dirt across a very sensitive and thin paint finish, and swirl marks are going to pop up over time. That could be a week or two with the bad washing technique, or a year with good washing techniques and good paint. In this case, and in most cases, we're going to have to do a little bit of paint correction with the swirl marks to correct that. You want that because putting a protective coating over swirl marks is obviously a bad idea. You want the paint to look good. And this is exactly what we're kind of hoping to avoid in terms of preserving the clear coat is with the protective coating. All these swirl marks that will happen, again, whether it's going to be in a month or a year or 2 years, we're hoping that most or all of them are in the actual protective coating layer. So then when we're polishing a year or 2 from now to make the car look good again, we are only removing that protective coating layer and preserving the clear coat in full. The clear coat is extremely thin. These are, hair thicknesses or thinnesses, and too much polishing could remove it to a point where it could fail. So preserving clear coat is a very important thing in keeping the car looking good. The value of such a detail, what we do here at Lustr, is basically, like I said, we try to aim for the highest end of car detailing, of car finishing, and then applying these paint protective coatings, etc. It kind of separates us from even regular businesses that do a typical wash and wax and a quick polishing to just kind of spruce up the paint job, and let alone somebody doing it at their home, because again, we kind of spent years and years of perfecting our craft. We do this day in, day out, on average of 7, 8 hours a day, as opposed to somebody that picks up something, whether it's from a local car store, an online retailer, and thinks they could just do it themselves. The supplies these days, the products, the tools, they're very good. So anybody could do a pretty good job, but for our clients, they trust us to do the best job and get as much value out of that, whatever the cost is, whatever the planned service is, get as much value and as much good results out of that as possible.
Hopefully you have a better idea on how to protect this beautiful piece of art. We hope you'll join us next time on the Viper video series.